So, good evening. This wolf moon, it's a Cancer full moon tonight. Also, just honoring. Also, I was looking at some pictures of Thich Nhat Hanh and Martin Luther King Jr. and their friendship from 1966 to 68 until he was assassinated, and just realizing what a wonderful uh, connection they had. So I'd like you just to take a moment to kind of feel your body. And it's nice, sometimes I like to start the sitting with the 5 reflections of simply, I am of the nature to grow old. I am of the nature to get ill. I am of the nature to die. Whatever I'm attached to, that it will be dissolved. And my only possessions are my actions. Those are kind of a simplistic form of the 5 reflections. So just in sitting here, just to feel your body in the room. And I find it always helpful to first just orientate yourself. So just to look around the room and see where the windows and doors, and since we're not in the hall together, we're in a virtual hall together. And then to take a moment just to feel your body. And it's also good as we start to feel the body, also to have some compassion for yourself, for the world and its complexity and confusion. And then bring your attention to your body. And I like very much to go through the body just as a guided way to orientate people, different than in the meditation hall. This virtual hall is, I will just guide us through some of the practice of kind of sweeping, or sometimes noted as kind of a body connection. And I'd like you just to simply first bring your attention to your breath. And just acknowledging the in and out of the breathing. Nothing special, just the natural breath in the mind, connecting, knowing it. And then bringing your attention to your feet. And if it feels helpful, you can wiggle your toes if you'd like. But the idea is to use that mind, which we'll be talking about tonight, to attend to the sensations in the feet. There's the toes and the upper foot and the arch, the heel, the ankles, and just both feet. And then bringing the attention from the feet up into the calves and the shins. And again, there's the nature of your mind, which has this capacity of recognizing sensation. And even if it's just light, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's the idea is aiming the mind and picking up on whatever is available in the world of sensation. And then allowing your attention as it comes up. And so this is just a way of traveling through the body and grounding the mind in the world of sensation and presence. And then just bringing it up to what we know as the kind of the knees, both knees. And bringing your attention, again, the kind of the complexity there of the lower legs and the knees and the upper. And then moving gently into the thighs, both thighs. Again, this is a practice of kind of aiming the mind and then kind of relaxing and noting whatever it is that one can feel in that area of the thighs, whether it's the lower thighs or middle thighs or upper thighs or the whole thighs. And then bringing your attention to that contact between the buttocks and the chair or couch or pillow or bench that you are now in contact with. And it's a fairly, and this is one of the easier contacts, is the buttocks on the chair, pillow, bench, or couch. And so we have included the feet and the ankles and the knees and the thighs and the buttocks. And then we can begin to move up into the torso itself. It's kind of that contact of there's the kind of the genitals, the lower belly, the expansion and contractions in that lower belly, noting the breath. Actually, the breath can be felt in the whole body, but it's a little bit subtle at this point of practice. Just kind of getting into it. So just note the rising and falling in the belly. And just acknowledging and feeling there's that kind of pelvic and those sockets where the thigh bones connect, and all the muscles and ligaments. And then from there to gently move, just move as the belly rises and falls, kind of to feel into the actual physical experience of the lower torso. We have the lower back many times can be a discomfort under certain circumstances. Those lower vertebrae, the lumbar, and the belly itself. And the belly is actually large in the sense of all the complexity of uh, the intestines and the stomach, and this breathing, the diaphragm that moves it. So just kind of feel into it, okay, the belly. And noting that there is it is a place of contact. That contact is they talk about as the dantian in the Chinese, and the hara in the Japanese, and in the Hindu tradition. That is a central place, that belly. It's a place where, for some people, that's where they watch the breath, feel the breath. And it's a nature of sometimes strength or power actually is there. And also a sense of earth or ground. And then just allowing it to arise, just like those vertebrae in the back. Just one vertebrae at a time as you move up. And now, before we move actually into the diaphragm, I'd like you just to bring your attention to your fingers. Sometimes, maybe a little wiggling it just to, there's more strong sensations there. But depending where you're at right now, just to feel into the fingers, with the palms and the back of the hands, the thumbs. And then the wrists. And then allowing that really this awareness to move up through from the wrists into the forearms, and from the forearms to the elbows. And then from the elbows, bringing your attention up and we're going to switch here back to the belly and the diaphragm. Just noting the breath, this place of expansion and contraction, this place of rising and falling. And then bringing the awareness up into what we know as the lungs and the ribs. And just feeling your way, a little bit at a time. And then moving to the heart. There's the physical heart and the kind of the heart center, somewhat different. But it's that center part of the chest. And then bringing the attention up into the shoulders. At this point in the shoulders, you can bring your attention back to your chest. There's the kind of the heart and the heart center, the breasts or pectoral muscles. There is the shoulder blades in the back. And then just to feel your way into now the upper arms. Into both shoulders, right and the left. And the upper vertebrae and this upper torso. And then to move into the neck. And the vertebrae and there's the muscles holding up the head, the throat. And bringing awareness now from the throat and the neck to the base of the skull, where the muscles and the skull kind of come together there. See if you can't just kind of feel into that. And then from there, just feeling into the jaw and the lower teeth and the tongue, in that place where we experience taste. And again, just the kind of muscles, the jaw, the joint. Again, a lot of this practice is when we put attention someplace, then there is a sense of relaxing, softening, the marvelous truth of awareness. And then bring your attention to the kind of the roof of the mouth and the teeth and that point at the just below the nostrils. And take a moment just to note the air. If the throat is clear, then the breath as it moves in and out through the nostrils. Kind of noting the sinuses and this place where we can identify directly to the brain smell. And then bringing the attention to the eyes and the eye sockets. And again, the sense of kind of softening or relaxing. They do hard work. And then bringing your attention around to hearing. And again, the complexity of hearing. There is first just the vibration that happens on the ear and our capacity to interpret it consistently, identifying. And the idea here is just to note sound. No need for identification. Just the vibration. And then bring attention into, we can call it just, there's the difference between the brain and the mind. And in this case, we're kind of using the brain, mind to acknowledge that we can soften and allow the brain to be also noted as part of our experience within the kind of confines of the skull. And then just allowing that attention through the physical brain to move up to the crown of the head. And now you can turn your attention back to the breath, or simply to this, to just awareness uh, of the comings and goings. Whatever suits you right now. It can be on the specifics of, could be just the breath or a mantra, or just open awareness, kind of inclusive, include all things. So now the body mind is either in this mode of noting the breath and the sensations, or noting just open awareness. If thoughts come, they come and go. The nature is simply not to attach to any of it. Kind of wide angle lens. Thoughts may come and go. They have no home. They simply appear out of nowhere. If you let them be, they just go. If you attach to them, you create the storyline. That's not the practice. The practice is simply to let those things go. Can you just sit in your body with this great wide space in front of you, behind you, to each side of you, and actually above and below? Thoughts and stories and memories come, they rest for a moment. If we don't attach to them, they disappear. So if you're sitting just watching the breath, just stay with that. And if you find yourself more expansive, to include the room and the space around you, knowing that whatever arises is just the mind. It actually has no home, no place. And it can be your trap or your freedom. You choose. So the name of this talk is Living in the Natural State. So I wanted to start. Actually, I don't have the beginning of this poem. I don't know where it is actually. So, but there's enough here that I thought, oh, this will be good. Remembering here, returning instantly, pure longing for freedom, blurred and ragged as it may be, being blind and poor, we find another breath. Learn to wait again and again in that place of dis-ease, waiting in our own sunshine, forgiveness, our own home of belonging. Sitting back up, empty hallway beneath the breath, where everything broken returns to itself, reassembles, glued from the horse hooves of the beast of burden we are. Fingers unclench. Luminous sky opens, waiting on the rim. Time, body, breath, again and again. Walking across any darkness, any territory, any high pass, to find that one heart, your heart, enduring, constant, glued together, precious life. This one life confirms our courage. We go forth. So even though I don't have the beginning of that anymore, I don't know where it is. It's like I lose stuff I do. And this chemo I've been taking doesn't help at all, So living in a natural state. And I went to do a reading from, this is Saraha. He was one of the great Tibetan yogis that, he was a great wanderer and teacher of kind of the non-dual states of being. So I want to start with this. In the primordial clear sky-like nature, there's nothing whatsoever to abandon or attain. Free from any mental activity that aims for results. This very mind that aspires for a result is really uncreated from the beginning. Thus, there is nothing to be gained or discarded at all. If there is something to be attained, then what would become of the doctrine of the four symbols? Just as a deer, when confused by thirst, might run in haste towards a mirage, so with the foolish driven by desire, whatever they seek is ever just beyond reach. The original uncreated is pure from the beginning. The original uncreated is pure from the beginning. When the conceptual mind that creates distinctions is purified, then it automatically arises in the absolute nature of this ground of reality. Just as a mirage in the desert suggests water where there is none, so the mind that constructs what is not real must be purified through its original nature. Like a wish-granting stone of legend, this sacrifices whatever is required through pure intent. For although in terms of ultimate truth, nothing relative exists, nevertheless, in terms of relative truth, the conventional experience of the world is quite real. So understand this. So it is. So this is kind of the dilemma of this. One side is this kind of complete letting go and not, not buying or believing anything that arises on one side. And on the other side, things are exactly the way they are, you know. And so we have to balance these two things. And a lot of it in our culture is that we put so much emphasis on the physical, you know, on our thoughts, on our intention and our doings, that somehow we miss this other part. And I think it's important that we have to find a balance between these two parts. You know, it's not that what you experience is not, it isn't that it's not real. It's just that it may not be what it seems, even though it is real. And on the other hand, then there is this great practice of seeing that the nature of your mind, it has no, you know, it has really, there's no boundary to it. I think you've probably noticed that. And that the mind, in essence, is simply a construct through the senses of a world that then we take to be real. And from this viewpoint, the world is actually not as real as we think it is. It is actually our mind that, and our senses that makes it real. And so if we turn, in a sense, we turn our attention round towards the nature of the mind. And that means, what is the manufacturing going on? What are you making up about who you think you are and how all this works? If you're caught in that, it's endless. We have a whole culture that's kind of caught forever in this, you know. And I have to go back to, because I have so much love for Martin Luther King Jr. and Thich Nhat Hanh. You know, they, even though they were only friends for 3 years, they were, you know, they were like the stellar people who looked differently at the world, you know, and they actually did it in their lives. You know, it wasn't just a thought or belief system. It was actual, there were actions that were taken due to what? To their kind of understanding of how things are. And, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh just simply called him a bodhisattva, that he was someone, an awakened being that then influenced thousands and thousands of people over time. And both of these, I could say, saintly men were, you know, incredible forerunners to where we are today. We wouldn't be here. You know, there would have been so many other things that happened. And I think Thich Nhat Hanh, who was, you know, a marvelous humanitarian, you know, he really took something that was incredibly painful, you know, the Vietnam War, and he kind of stood in the middle where neither side could stand him. And there's something so heroic about that, in the same way that Martin Luther King stood for something in this culture that needed to be expressed. And so at the same time, so we have that, but the other side of this is, yes, that's true. And these were, as far as I'm concerned, these are saintly people that there is, how did they kind of train themselves to become that? And that's where I think this, you know, you could say it's just a non-dual training. It's a training of seeing through the senses, in the sense of seeing and hearing and smelling and thinking. These are all, you know, we take them as concrete things. But the thing is, what is it that uses it, and what's interpreted is the mind. The mind uses that. So is the mind caught in those senses, or is the mind able to create some space between the senses and the ideas and the thoughts and the belief systems to what is actually here, you know? And a lot of times we just get caught in all that, you know? I mean, this is not an easy time in this country. It's really a tough, as far as I'm concerned. I just see that, you know, I mean, I was thinking, just because I always look at everybody who's there, and I was thinking, Yuko's in Japan and Laura's in Israel, and so we have that's kind of this community that we've gathered together is not just in single location, but actually is a wide variety of places. And yet here we are together, and we're talking about it's not about where you are. It's about how you're holding this. And this is really where I'm at is if you could learn to actually, when I began kind of the sitting practice about this space, and right now, sitting here, your eyes are seeing the screen or what a thing, I'm sorry we can't be together, but this is what we got right now, is we have the screen, and at the same time, you have what's around the screen. And so the mind, it may be looking at it, but that's only what it's caught in. It actually has this capacity to kind of hold the room that you're in and all the things within it and beyond. So that's its capacity. And I think a lot of the teaching here is our capacity to be able to know in some sense of what's behind you, what's in front of you, maybe the screen, what is to the left, what is to the right, what is above, what is below. And that if one can take that, because we want to identify with something of the senses, and that we think that, oh, that's enough. Well, in some sense, you could say, what was it? Relative truth, the conventional experience of the world is quite real. So understand this. So it is. And yet at the same time, it's almost like there's also being able to create that space where the mind isn't locked into just seeing or smelling or tasting or hearing or thinking, but actually is just taking in the expanse that exists in that expanse, and sense frees up, particularly for beliefs and imaginations and the mind chatter. It can actually go beyond that, and it doesn't mean you're excluding it. It's mean you're just getting bigger than it, so it doesn't have the same power when you stick to it. And when it doesn't have the same power, there's space. And when there's space, then there is a capacity for, a sense of, and I don't like to use the word bigness, but the more better word is just awareness, the large awareness that is available to us, And, we go around so lost in our world. And, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's what we do. And so in a way, I'm here to say, okay, that's good, you do that, but it's also not enough. You have to be able to be more inclusive. And then you don't, if you're more inclusive, then you don't, that's the thing, when there's space between your views, your opinions, and your ideas about things, then there is an intelligence there that will find its own kind of equilibrium. And that equilibrium is basically where the wisdom factor comes in. And when the wisdom factor can come in, then there's an understanding of the purity of how this all works. And, I hate to mention it, but I've been through this lately, is that when you look at that, there is a lot of suffering that is inherent in our human condition. And so there is actually a softening with that awareness that happens. So it's, in a sense, it kind of brings the heart to the front of all this. And I love Ajahn Chah always said, the only book you ever need to read is your heart. And I've just held that because that was something that said something about, I don't need to intellectualize this. I need to find the practice that creates, first of all, the nature of the natural state. And that natural state doesn't have a problem. You have a problem. The you has a problem. But the natural state does not have a problem. It's you that creates the problem. And also our reflections on others who come and kind of catch us. And in the catching us, they create our heavy kind of language of views, opinions, and judgments, and then when we're caught in those views, opinions, and judgments, we're not here. We're caught in a little narrow world that in essence is trying to either mitigate its suffering or get out of it, in some fashion. And, that's just not enough, if just that is enough, then what would this be about anyway? So now I'm going to turn it a little bit because this is the really part for me that's important, is I think that, what this ultimately is about is when awareness has the capacity to know itself, then there's actually the possibility of freedom. And freedom is not something that, that you have to achieve. It's something that naturally exists when you're not clinging to your views, opinions, and your judgments about it all. And that, it's been a real journey. And I was reading today about all the stuff that, I have this ostomy and I have to have these two surgeries. Well, I think we're going to be able to do it in one surgery. I'll find out on the 31st. But it's kind of scary, when they cut you open and kind of glue you back together, stitch you back together, whatever. But they cut me from, the sternum all the way down to my crotch. And it's like, oh, God, that's like, whoa, maybe something fall out. I'm hoping they attach everything okay, because they have to sew up my bladder and one place in my intestines and then reverse this ostomy, So it's, it's just body stuff, but it's, reading this stuff today, it was like, oh my God, but we can do what we want with it, and I really, I just was interested in how they do it, but it's kind of gory looking, the web is kind of a trip, if you want anything, you can just kind of look it up, oh, we're going to cut you open and then, we'll sew you back up and you'll be on your way. And that's where I'm at. I want to be on my way, but it's going to take a little while for that, I still have next Friday, I have my 5th chemo infusion, and then on the 11th of February, I get my 6th one. So that's pretty cool. If it works, we'll see. If it doesn't work, they'll do something else. But, you're not going to get rid of me so quickly. I don't think I'm going to bomb out yet. So that's as much as I know. But, it's a trip, though, all of this, I want to read this. It's this from Denise Levertov, and it's called The Fountain. Don't say there is no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall, and you drinking there, and I too, before your eyes, found footholds and climbed to drink the cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched. but not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't say there is no water. That fountain is there among the scalloped green and gray stones. It is still there and always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us and up and out through the rocks. Awakening is not so far away. It is ultimately it is your birthright to wake up, and to wake up is simply not. It's not so far-fetched. I think sometimes you think, oh, that's just for monks or nuns or something, but it's not true. It's actually for all of us, and it's not something, in some ways. When I was young, I had this fancy idea that you had to kind of, crack the ceiling or something, or, be hit by lightning in a clear blue sky, something like that, But I think ultimately it's much different. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because I know it does, and for sure. But I also know that when we can turn our minds around and see that somehow freedom is not something that we'll achieve or attain, but is something that's already here, that's already with you. You have been walking around in it your whole life, but no one ever pointed it out. It just was like, oh, this is, no, I'll have to do something to get it. And I'm just trying to say, you don't have to do something, you have to realize something. So it's not something that you attain, it's something you realize. And what my intention is for you to, sometimes I think if just we can actually completely relax and see the nature, the nature of your natural state or mind, that you would simply see that when you're not manufacturing, you're not making things up, you're not trying to manipulate or move them, that there is a natural state that's free. But it also means that, when a thought or memory or some attachment to a color or sound or taste or smell, whatever, if you can let that go, then there is a natural state which is awake. And it's not something you produced, it's something that was naturally you, which is absolutely true, And yet, we get it for a second. It's like maybe you get it here. And so you have to, in the sense they talk about it as stabilizing this natural state of awareness, and that means that somehow you're just releasing everything as it arises. So it's not, in a sense, sticking to anything. There's no glue, but we are glue, we are, unfortunately, our glue. We glue to everything. And that's just, we think somehow by doing that we'll get what we want or we'll be free. It's not the way it works. The only way it works is when you understand that awareness, which is your birthright, is something you simply have to turn. I know it sounds kind of silly. You have to turn your mind around on it. So what does that say? Turn your mind. Well, it's just saying that, no, I'm going to turn the mind, which can, it's so pliable. It will go to any sense store, any thought, any memory, and it will attach to that. Say, no, I'm not doing that right now. What I'm doing is putting my attention on this, you could call it just simple open awareness that supports your well-being. And the thing is, it's phenomenal about it. It's like going through this stuff I'm going through. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal on relative terms. It is a big deal. On an absolute term, it's not a big deal. It's just like, I don't like the suffering part of it, or I don't like the first 6 days I'm on this prednisone, really high doses after the infusion, and I'm actually okay. I'm fine. I just can't sleep. But there's a kind of irritation in not being able to close your eyes and fall asleep. That's kind of disconcerting. And then what happens is after that, then suddenly it's called a nadir, and you just go into you can't keep your eyes open, and it's sort of like being in molasses or something. And you have that for 3-4 days, and then you start to come out of that. Of course, that's when your immune system is really compromised. And then you come out of it, and then you get strong again, like I am right now. I mean, I hope I'm remembering everything. If not, I'm not going to worry about it, and then you have to do it again, So I'm learning kind of the rhythm of going through this, And at first it's kind of surprising and shocking, and then it's kind of like, oh, I get the rhythm. And then you get kind of, okay, that's a rhythm. But the rest, all of this is rhythm, your life and going to sleep and waking up, eating your meals. It's all part of this rhythm. Now, how attached are you going to be with that? You disrupt it, and then it's kind of like, oh, I got to find the middle way again. But it's also, when it is disrupted, then you have to, in a sense, kind of find your feet again, or your ground. So I'm kind of looking at, where am I? I don't know where I am. And I don't really want to know where I am. That would be counterintuitive right now, But I must say, it's almost like if you turn the mind around, and it isn't contacting the senses anyway, then it actually works pretty good. It was not, it was never a problem. Let's see. It's so funny. These computers are such a trip, But I'm really happy to see you on this Zoom call. It's, one of the wonders that's going on is, and that's the other thing, when what they call the nadir, which is only about a week, my white blood cells are, if they're 3,000, usually they're like 650 after the nadir. So I really am confined, But everybody is with this pandemic. We really haven't had the kind of, what is it? The emotional connection that seeing and being with humans, because that's what, we have that propensity. There is a healing power in that. And that's one of the things I used to love about, at Mountain Stream, we'd go and sit together, was there was an energetic factor that I don't, I don't think is here, It's, it works, but that one little piece is a little bit missing. And I'm happy to do this and happy to see you all. And, I love you guys dearly. And I'm sorry we can't be in the same room or nearby. And that's the way it is. This is what's happening right now. So there's kind of, awakening. One of the things about awakening, there's a language, clear seeing. And I think in some ways that clear seeing is not about the eyes or the smelling or tasting or hearing or body sensing, none of that. It's clear seeing, and maybe that's it's a little less, it's more obtuse, I would say. And that's really the fact that when you see, there is seeing with your eyes, but there's also seeing with that awareness, and it can take in a lot, and it knows a lot of things that you don't know. I mean, it's amazing how much knowledge in this, kind of genetic structure you have that knows things that you wouldn't know through, knowledge or information or the senses in some ways. It has to be this combination. That combination knows. And we have to be able to somehow give ourselves permission to find that clear seeing in, it's in some ways I think of it as we have to get out of our own way, And so this is not about John, Victoria, or Charmaine, or Susan, or, or Brad. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that there is a way of it means that the senses are they're still functioning, but they're completely it's almost like you're not focusing on those things. You're focusing on that there's a knowing or awareness that's there, that's actually more your home. The other is the transient world that you inhabit. And so you become more and more kind of, familiar or instanced or in this possibility of resting in kind of that seeing is a wider, it's kind of a wider angle, kind of like a wide angle lens, but that's minimal. That's, again, a thing. And I'm talking about something bigger than a thing. And that when it's actually cultivated to a point, that's the thing. It's something you have to do again and again and again to remind yourself, because it's so easy to be caught in the relative world. And this is saying, oh no, I'm going to hold all of the world in this awareness. And in that, then eventually we'll come to a state that acknowledges that, oh, I am here, and that there is a natural, it's maybe natural heart or natural kindness that comes into that picture. It's not something you have to do. It's something that's just like awareness, it's naturally there. And that we begin to see, oh, we're holding these two things, the awareness and the kindness, in equal proportion, And we have to start in this particular practice as we start with, that we have to have that meditation practice, learn to kind of cool and calm things down, and then to turn and soften our sense doors to see what it is that's holding everything. And then there's a natural kind of sense of kindness that then appears. And it appears out of, in some ways, it appears out of nowhere. It's just simply like, oh, I've kind of stayed in that awareness. Now I have an understanding of where the world is. But it's no longer about, it's not about me. Because that me is something in the front with the sense doors and its views and judgments and the things it needs to know for the organism to take care of itself. But then this is something more primal and possible. So, take. It's still hard. My throat doesn't want to be a good boy. So I want to end here with one of my poems that, from many years ago, when I was. This is actually, it was the first talk after my prostate cancer back in 2009. It's called "The World Calling." From a well gone dry. From this silence, so well constructed, I wander off into tomorrow, bending like a willow, trying to touch a world unhatched. This impossible of my imagination. I am the intimacy of faith. I am the grandeur of loneliness. I am the worthiness, that which kept buried beneath the wounds of my stories. Sometimes everything has to be studied, knowing somehow that this sitting here is not enough, this knowing, this fierce walking like pilgrims through the darkness, knowing we've traveled inside everyone. Feeling the grief, the joys. I want to know, no more traveling on the wings of fear and hope, but to sit by the fire of living, no longer dying to what could have been or even what will be, but finding my place in the things that are. Some mystery presented, some grace, some bit of mercy miraculously lived. So let this listening somewhere beneath the granite shelves of the earth, where the sweet waters lie in wait, to be tapped to give life back to itself. This basic goodness, this first step home, gives you back to yourself, the heart flowing with each encounter, a mind pliable, moving like the sweet stream from that deep down listening. I am awake. The world calls in its pungent need to change me. I move into it with it. So,
beautiful poem.
Thank you. So we're going to just take a moment to do a little metta and close this evening. So just bring attention first, just to your breath. And some gratitude for this body, for this wolf moon that's, if the clouds aren't there, staring at you, wherever you are. And then bringing your attention to your heart. And again, that awareness is like a big bubble around you. And the center of that bubble is this heart. And so just bringing that sense of goodness and kindness, compassion and sympathetic joy and equanimity to your heart. And just taking a moment to extend it out to those of us here from, as I said, from Israel to Kyoto, Japan, that are on this Zoom tonight, and Ohio, or from Idaho, or all the kind of different truths that we can come together this way. And first, just to take care of yourself. The fragile body And just to note the fragile body. Oh, this too has the nature to grow ill, become sick, and eventually die, if you're lucky. And know that all things that you're attached to, that you know that you would like to somehow keep or know, or that it has the nature to sometimes it disappears. Not our wanting, but just happens. And that the only thing we own are our actions. And so ultimately just teaching ourselves to note the nature of mind, this natural state, and this state of loving kindness, that we can somehow hold all of it in the light of both of these, kind of in the left and the right hand, holding the world. And again, just for, I think, Martin Luther King Jr. and Thich Nhat Hanh, these heroes in our past who brought their dharmas to the world. And I can hear a dog out there barking at the moon. Oh, yes. So it is.